Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I'm one of your hosts, Memo, and right beside me, I've got Hoops. How you doing?
What's going on, man? Overall, for the most part, I've been doing, I say, relatively good. Just getting through life, and it's been going by, shall we say. What about you, man? How have you been doing lately?
Kind of same here. Like, I did get sick this week. I'm still recovering. Um, I might sound different today because of it, but I am getting better. And yeah, it was nice having a short week this week. With MLK Day. Shout out to Martin Luther King Jr. Uh, but yeah, it was nice to be able to take that day off. I'm gonna actually have another 3 day weekend. Because my job is having like staff development days and I don't have to participate. So I got lucky there. So yeah, I'm good. I'm excited for the weekend. I want to play basketball, play Fortnite. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, man. Glad you've been good for the most part, and hope you are recovered quickly.
Thank you, thank you. Luckily, I wasn't sick for too long. But yeah, it sucks getting sick. It's never a fun
Yeah.
experience.
I feel like a lot of people are getting sick right now. Obviously, like winter, and even though we are in Southern California, it's warm, but like still, the weather shift definitely causes.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get like it's gonna change drastically by tomorrow. Like these last 2 days were pretty warm. I think yesterday it
Pretty
hit
warm,
80,
yeah.
but starting tomorrow it's gonna be super cold. I think Saturday is gonna rain. Or not Saturday, Sunday it's gonna rain. It's gonna be a huge
Mm.
shift, which is kind of crazy. How it be like that sometimes.
Yeah, it be like that.
But okay, we have an exciting episode for today. Originally, we were gonna make a episode dedicated to predicting the entire All Star lineup, but our timing was off, so the All Star starters were released already. But we'll go over that in our predictions for the bench, the rest of the roster. So we're gonna do that. We got a little bit of news to talk about. Not a lot. Not a lot. Before we do all that though, let's actually go through the standings. I realized while going back to our last episode that's doing like really really well. Like it's one of our best episodes in a while. Like people just love the ranking videos. I like that kind of content too, so I can see why. But yeah, I realized that we didn't go over the standings last week, so let's do it this week. Now we did skip a week, so I don't remember whose turn is for the East, whose turn is for the West. You usually have better memory than I do, but it has been a
Um,
while.
I kind of forgot, but I feel like I think I might have done the Western Conference, so I think it might be your turn this time.
All right, I'll do the West Coast, the best coast, starting at number 15. Is the Jazz with a 10-32 record. Number 14 is the Pelicans with a 12-33 record. Number 13 is the Trailblazers with a 17-28 record. The Spurs are at number 12 with a 20-22 record. The Warriors at 11 with a 22-22 record. The Suns are at number 10 with a 22-21 record. The Kings are at number 9 with a 23-21 record. The Timberwolves are at number 8 with a 23-21 record. The Mavs are at number 7 with a 24-21 record. The Clippers are at number 6 with a 25-19 record. The Lakers are at number 5 with a 24-18 record with a giant win against the Celtics. I think yesterday to start off Rivals Week on a good note. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
The Nuggets
Okay.
are at number 4 with a 28-16 record. The Grizzlies at number 3 with a 30-15 record. The Rockets at number 2 with a 29-14 record. And at the very top it's the Thunder at number one with a 36-8 record. So that's the Western Conference.
And now for the Eastern Conference. At number 15, we got the Wizards at 6-37. At number 14, we got the Hornets at 11-30. At number 13, we got the Raptors at 12-32. At number 12, we got the Nets at 14-31. At 11, we got the Sixers at 16-27. At number 10, we got the Bulls at 19-26. At number 9, we got the Heat at 21-22. At number 8, we got the Hawks at 22-22. At number 7, we got the Magic at 23-23. At number 6, we got the Pistons at 23-21. At number 5, we got the Pacers at 24-20. At number 4, we got the Bucks at 25-17. At number 3, we got the Knicks at 29-16. At number 2, we got the Celtics at 31-14. And sitting at the very top of the Eastern Conference, we got the Cavs at 36-8. So those are the Eastern Conference standings.
All right, now let's talk about the All-Star starters. They've been released on TNT with Ernie and the gang. And yeah, we planned to predict like the entire roster, including the starting lineup. Unfortunately, our timing was off. We were hoping that it would be, I don't know, announced later, I guess, but they are released, and I was able to make my predictions for the starters early this week, so I do have my predictions handy. I'll go over it soon, but let's go over the starters for the West Coast and East Coast. I guess I'll go talk about the West Coast starters first, and then you could go over the East Coast starters. So in the West Coast, the guards are Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Stephen Curry. And then the three forwards, I guess, includes Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James.
For the Eastern Conference starters, we have Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell at the guard position. And then forward positions, we got Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Karl-Anthony Towns.
Any surprises looking at these starters?
Not really. To me, honestly, I feel like all of these players are having really great seasons, and they all definitely are worthy of their starting spot. I will say this though, if we're talking about fan voting and fans voting based on their favorite players, and you could argue maybe a shock could be Luka not being voted into the starting lineup. Now I will say this, he has missed a lot of games, but I mean from a fan perspective of voting based on their favorite players, maybe a little bit shocking there. But overall, I would say nothing too crazy, honestly. I think these starters are pretty reasonable. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Any shockers, or you pretty much predicted what you saw?
I'm kind of shocked that you were shocked that Luka wasn't voted in by the fans. I don't believe he was top 2 in guard voting this year. I could be wrong.
I think he was kind of low, and I will say that definitely shocked me because Luka is such a big fan favorite globally. So just from that side of things, but
he clearly didn't get his votes because he missed a lot of games, as he just said. What's more shocking than that, if we're just talking about fan voting, is that LaMelo didn't get it because he was the number 1 voted guard in the East. So I guess through your logic, he should have been in here over a Jalen Brunson or a Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, it's not just fan voting. The media gets a say, players and coaches get a say, I believe. So because of that, LaMelo's not gonna be a starter. But I guess it's a little surprising that the number 1 vote getter for guards isn't in the starting lineup.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a little bit of a shocker. But then, of course, like with the other factors coming in, like the coaches also voting, I guess it's more understandable. Um, and yeah, we can thank those Warriors fans for the criterion changes.
Oh, the Zaza Pachulia push, that was insane.
Yeah.
So, so as I said, I did make my predictions earlier, and I'll say 10 for 10 so far. I did not miss on any of them. This These two starting lineups were exactly what I predicted. I was very close though to putting Wemby over Kevin Durant. But I think Kevin Durant is just so well respected, so such a like a fan favorite throughout the years, and he's always been one of the top vote getters. That like I couldn't knock him. So uh, part of me thought Wemby could overtake Kevin Durant, but the more thought I put into it, the more I realized that that wasn't gonna happen. It was gonna be Kevin Durant starting over Wemby.
Well done.
Thank you, thank you. So, yeah, those are the starters for each conference. Now let's actually get into uh, the bench, and I guess we could start with the West. Okay, so we'll reveal the bench to each other, and then maybe talk about some honorable mentions too, like uh, players that we believe might be injury replacements, or possible injury replacements if there are any. So we're gonna reveal our bench lineup. Here we go. Ooh, I got the wrong
Oh.
the wrong one. I put the East one instead. Oopsies. Okay. As I'm fixing it, would you like to read off your reserves?
Um, yeah, I'll do that. So for my Western Conference All-Star Reserve predictions, I had put down John Morant, Anthony Edwards, De'Aaron Fox, Jalen Williams, Anthony Davis, Victor Wembanyama, and Alperen Şengün. And I can mention honorable mentions now.
Wait. Let me go over
So
mine first. Let's talk about the benches first before we go over the honorable mentions. Um, just to explain why we are we predict this lineup, and I say we because we got the exact same bench,
that
exact
is
same. I
crazy.
got J Dub, Wemby, Alperen Şengün, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, John Morant, and De'Aaron Fox. So it's kind of it's pretty cool that we got this. We're like this right now. We're
Impressive,
like
yeah.
this. We got the
Yeah.
same mindset. Great minds think alike. So let's go over
Great minds
each
think alike.
one. Let's start with the guards. Um, why do you believe John Morant is going to be an All Star this year?
So, I think that John Morant is for sure worthy of being an All-Star this year because, one arguable comeback player, like candidate, shall we say, in terms of like he missed so many games last year, and then he's finally back and healthy and staying out of trouble too, because we know his like off-court issues he had to also, and the result, the Grizzlies are currently the third seed in the Western Conference, and he is largely the reason why. So, I had felt like John Morant was um, definitely deserving of an All-Star nod because of how big his impact is for the Grizzlies on the court versus off the court.
Yeah, I even though his stats are like down, it's clear that he's like the number one guy. And even though like the rest of the team do contribute a lot, Jaren Jackson Jr. It has improved a lot this year. It's still Ja's team, and the Grizzlies are great, and John Moran is such an exciting player to watch. So yeah, I agree. He should be an All Star. Now, what about Anthony Edwards? What is your argument for his inclusion into the reserves?
I would say for Ant, reason why he's worthy of an All Star is for one, obviously he continues to get better and climb up his I guess career trajectory, if you want to call it. Um, yeah, so last year he pretty much had like a breakout and led the Wolves to the third seed in Western Conference. This year the team is not as good, but he is arguably playing better or just as good as last year. So I think that Anthony Edwards, because of his showcasing of his abilities to constantly get better in different ways, was certainly worthy of being an All Star this season.
Yeah, like as you said, even though the Timberwolves did step down a bit, Ant in many ways has improved his game, especially on the 3 point line. He's become a better shooter. He's been shooting it a lot more and a lot more efficiently. And yeah, he's still uh, not only a great leader for the Timberwolves, but one of the most exciting players in the league as well, right up there with Josh. So he should definitely be in there. Um, Another guy that I kind of thought was a controversial inclusion to my list, but knowing that he is also on your list, I'm very curious about your thoughts on him. De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is on your list. This would be his second time being an All Star. And why do you think he should get the All Star nod?
Yeah, I will say, De'Aaron Fox was probably like the on the edge guy for me as well. In terms of, since you said that he was a guy that it felt like was a little bit of a more conflicting or shocking prediction. Ultimately, the reason why I did pick him is because he is a big reason why the Kings have really turned their season around in the last month. Aside from obviously Doug Christie giving the franchise a fresh philosophy and fresh leadership, um, De'Aaron Fox also was great leadership, leading the Kings to, I believe they had like a 8-2 or 10-2 record since Doug Christie took over, something like that. I think it was 10-3 or 8-3 now because they lost in Denver last night, but nonetheless, really good turnaround. And De'Aaron is largely responsible, and so that is why I felt like Aaron was definitely worthy of the All Star nods this season.
Yeah, like he's an incredible player. He should have been a multiple time All Star by now, but he always gets snubbed in the loaded West. And yeah, he has great stats. I was gonna hype him up a little bit, but looking at the last few games, he's had some stinkers. Not gonna lie, he had some poor shooting performances. But overall, this year, 25 points, impressive. 47% from the field, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Um, and another exciting player, like an underrated exciting player, I believe. Like he's a super fast player. And yeah, clearly the leader for the Kings, or maybe not clearly because Sabonis is amazing. I was thinking about him or Sabonis. Uh, Last year I definitely thought Sabonis got snubbed, but I'm snubbing Sabonis this year, and I'm picking De'Aaron over him. Next guy, Jalen Williams. We both believe that Jalen Williams will make his first All Star game. Why do you think he will make it?
Yeah, so obviously, J Dub he was largely responsible for OKC getting the um number 1 seed last year, and this year he has taken an even bigger leap. Averaging 21 points, shooting 48% from the field, which is nearly 50% as a shooting forward. Pretty good, not too shabby, honestly. And then he's also put up some really good scoring performances too. Like last two games against Jazz, he put up 25. Against Mavs, he put up 33. Um, yeah, I think that J Dub showing his huge value for this contending OKC team is proving him to be very worthy of making the All Star nod.
And not only offensively, which he's been like doing amazing at, but defensively is where he really had a huge impact, because he could defend 1 through 5. Like there was a point in the season where Chet was out, where Isaiah Hartenstein still hasn't played his first game for OKC. So a lot of the time, Jada was the one guarding the center position and doing it pretty well. So yeah, very impressive. Definitely the number 2 guy over there for OKC, at least at the moment. We'll see in the future how the pecking order will be with J Dub and Chet being back. But at the moment, J Dub is the number 2 guy and deserves the All Star spot. Next player was clearly going to be an All Star this year, Anthony Davis. Out from our Los Angeles Lakers. It's obvious why he's going to be an All Star, but would you like to explain why he deserves the spot?
Yeah, I think that it's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, we have mentioned that AD obviously last year he made a pretty good comeback, being relatively healthy and playing over 70 games after being considered very injury prone and a lot of dumb media narratives from analysts, which I'm sure many people out there know who, but yeah. Um, Nonetheless, AD, these last two seasons, he has shown his worth. And this season, like, I think this is where, as we mentioned before, AD is looking like he is the number one option on the Lakers, and LeBron is number two. And yeah, if that's the case, obviously we know how great LeBron James is at age 40. Anthony Davis, if you're doing even better than LeBron, then for sure you deserve the nod. Now, yeah, the only thing that obviously prevent him from being in the starting lineup is because of the other bigs that are just like more valuable to their teams respectively, shall we say, or like more popular. But yeah, nonetheless, AD at the very least is worthy of being a All Star reserve
Oh yeah,
because he didn't get voted as starter.
yeah, for sure. The starters is always like a popularity thing. Like, at the moment, I think it's safe to say that Anthony Davis has been playing better than LeBron. So if we were gonna put the best players on there, we would have Anthony Davis over LeBron. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Uh, but yeah, shout out to the Brow. You know, he's been playing crazy on both ends. The offense is kind of going through him now, and because of it, his game has improved offensively, defensively. Always a rock star, just, very solid there. So yeah, this was an obvious pick, and I think the next person is pretty obvious as well. Victor Wembanyama. This would be his first selection, and yeah, just in his second season in the NBA, he's already proving why he is gonna be one of the best players in the league. Yeah, would you like to go over why you have him on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, not really much explanation needed. We all know his impressive abilities, had a very impressive rookie year, and is arguably doing even better this year. Um, Now, defensive anchor, he is a tower, and he is pretty good at shooting too, especially as a big is also impressive. I mean, obviously this year he is averaging nearly 25 points per game. He is shooting almost 48%, which must I remind you, not a traditional big that only stays down low. He's a big that also stretches the floor. So, pretty good shooting percentage. and then he averages nearly 11 rebounds, but the most impressive is 4 blocks a game. So, that being said, having his presence on the floor on both the offensive and especially the defensive side of the floor, Wemby is for sure, without a doubt, a all-star this year.
Oh yeah, and with those crazy stat lines too, like this guy is insane, out of this world. That's why they call him the alien. So yeah, shout out to Wemby, and then the last guy, maybe another controversial pick, but I'm glad that we both agree on this. Alperen Şengün, who is clearly better than Joel Embiid, based off of my little rant last week. Which I'm surprised I posted it on TikTok. I when TikTok was supposed to be banned, I posted it like a day before, as like a goodbye for TikTok, and surprisingly there was a couple people that agreed, and I didn't get any hate comments. So that's good. That's good. I didn't get
Yeah,
shit on by Philly fans,
yeah.
but
Maybe somehow the Philly fans didn't see it, perhaps.
maybe I put Embiid in the hashtag, so uh, they should have saw it. I don't know, but yeah.
Should have.
Speaking of Alperen Şengün, why do you think he's gonna be an All Star this year?
Yeah, obviously he's having a very impressive season this year for a team that is also having a really impressive season. Um, Averaging nearly 20 points a game, nearly 11 rebounds, and once again, one of those well, he is like a down low type, kind of traditional center, but his presence and obviously being a anchor as I don't know if he's necessarily known as like a defensive specialist per se, but he's not like bad on defense. Then his offense is pretty good. So I think that him practically, granted, he was already a really good player in his previous seasons since he's been drafted. I think that this season he just seemingly really took a leap in well, I guess I guess technically his stats were like kind of similar last year, but like because he is so illustrious for a team that is the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, I think for sure he is worthy of being an All-Star this year.
Yeah, I guess politics did play a role with my selection of Alperen Şengün. Like I thought it would be weird to not have an All Star from the Rockets, even though they're what the second seed, the third seed, something like that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I do think he plays like an all star. It might be not the flashiest numbers out there, but it's great numbers. I think he is great at his position, being a great facilitator and a scorer when needed, a great post player. Um, there's definitely been a lot worse all stars throughout the years. I'll say that. So I think he deserves to be an all star. Let us know if you guys think we got it right or we got it wrong. But yeah, let's actually talk about some honorable mentions, some players that might be, um, injury snubs. It's not snubs. What am I trying to say? Uh, uh, injury subs, right?
Subs,
Subs, yeah.
replacements.
Injury
Yeah.
replacements. That sounds a lot better. So, who are some players that you were thinking of that had like a chance, and maybe they will if there's an injury, but did not make your list?
Yeah, there's a few players I think worthy of being named. First one I had was James Harden. So he has been pretty much doing his thing this season, especially with Kawhi out for the first 3 months of the season, and keeping the Clippers within striking distance, and that being like in playoff contention. And even though I'm not a fan of his, credit where it's due, he has been doing his job, and he is one of the reasons why the Clippers have still been having a pretty good, decent record, despite not having their number one option for the first 3 months of the season. But the next player I have an honorable mention is actually his teammate Norman Powell. Now, Norman Powell obviously has been having like a little bit of a breakout season, and really taking advantage of when Kawhi was out. Now, obviously, when knowing that Kawhi Leonard, the best player, is out, you're gonna need other guys to step up, and boy, was Norman Powell one of them. So that is why I have him as an honorable mention, and I would not be shocked if he was a All-Star replacement. Now, I don't know which players are potentially injured and might have to miss the All-Star. I guess we'll first have to see who gets selected. But I would not be shocked if he is a potential replacement if that is of need. Um, another another honorable mention I have is actually Jaren Jackson Jr. And that's simply due to the fact that like he is pretty much having a nice season this year. Like obviously in the past we have talked about like probably wasn't necessarily worthy of winning the defensive player of the year over guys like AD, Bam, or whoever during the 2 seasons ago. But this season, he has been proving his worth on the defensive end and like in general, honestly. Behind Ja was Jaren Jackson Jr. leading the way for the third seed Grizzlies. So that's why I have Jaren Jackson Jr. as an honorable mention. And I put Domantas Sabonis as an honorable mention because he's also having a pretty good season and considered putting him in the reserves list. Ultimately, I feel like some other guys were more worthy, so I had him off that reason. So those were pretty much my main Western Conference honorable mentions. James Harden, Norman Powell, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Domantas Sabonis.
Okay, we are basically on the same page. I wasn't gonna mention James Harden, but like he deserves a mention. He has been pretty good for the Clippers and helping running the team while Kawhi was out. Um, I guess a snub could go to Luca, but that's mostly because of injury. Like he's not gonna play because he's injured, and he's not gonna be voted because he's injured. So it's like a snub that makes sense. But I did want to shout him out because he is incredible when he plays, but he's not on the floor at the moment. But yeah, one of my snubs for sure is Norman Powell. 23.7 points per game, with 49 percent from the field. I remember when they were interviewing him when PG signed to Philly, there was talking about like what's the team gonna do, and he was basically saying that he got this, and people were kind of laughing at it. But look at him now; he's playing like an all-star. He's playing a lot better than Paul George right now. So shout out to Norman Powell for stepping up and not only talk the talk but walk the walk as well. So shout out to him. As mentioned earlier, and as you mentioned as well, Jaren Jackson Jr. does deserve to be an all-star, but he will be an all-star snub this year. He has improved a lot. I'm a Jaren Jackson Jr. hater. I've been hating on him for a while. I think he's kind of overrated defender. Like the only thing he can do is block shots. I feel like he can't rebound. He can't do a lot of things, but he's improved a lot, especially offensively. He's actually scoring a little more than Ja this year per game, which is kind of surprising. And I have heard a lot of people saying that Jaren Jackson Jr. has been playing better than Ja this year. That could be debatable, but shout out to him. He's doing great. Domantas Sabonis as well. He's always there in the All-Star conversation, but He never makes it for some reason, and I do feel bad because he plays amazing basketball. 21 points, 14.4 rebounds. He's leading the league in rebounds. 6 assists. He's a good facilitator for his position. But I did pick De'Aaron Fox over him, so sorry. But yeah, those are my snubs. If Who would be like the first uh All Star replacement in your opinion?
I will say this. Obviously factors coming in, like which position ends up being the player that gets hurt. Granted, like it doesn't seem like they always necessarily replace that specific position. Like for example, if a guard got injured, they damn well could put a center as the replacement. That being said, I would say probably Norman Powell would be the first replacement, just because of how big of a breakout he's been having. And then honestly, my second replace option would probably be Jaren Jackson Jr.
That's interesting. Interesting you say that because, like, I don't think Norman Powell would be the first option for an injury replacement, but he's the one I want the most to be the injury replacement. Just because he's never been an All Star, he's well into his career, and finally like breaking out. So I think he deserves it over the rest, just for the narrative's sake. Um, and from time though, um, the I don't know who picks it, but they had picked players that never been All Stars before, but have played a while in the NBA and probably should have been All Stars. Um, like Mike Conley, he became an All Star because of an injury replacement. Kyle Korver. There was someone else I was thinking about. But yeah, it could be one of those situations where they like just throw Norman Powell the bone, be like, oh, Gordon Dragic is one of them too. He became an All Star because of injury
I
replacement.
forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I could see that being done for Norman Powell. Just Adam Silver be like, hey, go at it and let him go play. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they chose like the more seasoned guy, like Domantas Sabonis, who's been, I believe, a multiple time All Star already. So those are probably like my two picks, I guess. But we'll see. I guess we'll see. But
Yeah, I would say not bad, and they would be probably the most logical.
yeah, I think so. Now let's move on. Let's finally talk about the East Coast, the East Coast, the East All Star reserves. We're gonna reveal to each other who are in our teams. I kind of already did earlier by accident, but now it's for real. I'm gonna reveal my list. Two hoops on our dock. And interesting. Okay, so this time it's gonna be a little different. This time it's different. So, Hoops, would you like to read over your list?
Yeah, for my list, I got LaMelo Ball, Cade Cunningham, Trey Young, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Maxey, Tyler Hero, and Evan Mobley.
Yeah, and for me, I have Evan Mobley, Jalen Brown, Paulo Banchero, which probably the most controversial pick, but I'll explain later. Cade Cunningham, LaMelo Ball, Trey Young, and Damian Lillard. Already, I see. What is that? One, two, three, four, like six guards on on your list. Like I think Hero's a more of a guard than a forward. I see you have a F next to him.
I will say, yeah, I mostly had trouble thinking about like bigs that I think could really get in. And so like I kind of was like, shit, I guess I'll just put a bunch of guards or something. I don't know. But yeah, there were some difficulties with like the positioning, honestly, on my end.
I I'll be honest, the same here because I will say the forward position is definitely the weaker position in the East. Tyler Hero's not a forward though. He's a point guard or shooting guard. So uh, you have one forward basically, and the rest are guards. But yeah, let's talk over the ones that we do have in common. Starting with LaMelo Ball, who was voted the number one guy for the East Cards. I see that you have him. Why do you have him on your list?
Yeah, I mean, first off, he is making a pretty good comeback season. Obviously, he was injured a lot in the previous seasons, and he is finally healthy this year, and he is proving his worth. Obviously, the Hornets are still not a good team, but that is clearly not on Melo because he is doing his job and actually making that team like he is one of the few bright spots of a not very good team and making Hornets basketball a little bit more to watch, even though still not a lot of reasons to watch. But yeah, nonetheless, Melo having a nice comeback season, and he is for sure worthy of being an All Star this year.
Oh yeah, like he is such a fun player to watch with his one-legged threes. The three-pointers in general are crazy. Like he's such a flashy player. His passes are flashy. The way he shoots the ball is flashy. Um, maybe a little turnover prone, maybe a little inefficient. But this is an all-star game. We want players like this that will just mess around and uh, score buckets like crazy. So yeah, I have LaMelo on my team as well, and it looks like you also have Cade Cunningham, which this will be his first time being an All Star. Why do you think he will be an All Star this year?
Yeah, I think without much explanation needed, obviously the Pistons really overachieving this year, and Cade is the main reason why. For a team that did not have very many expectations, he is certainly one of the brighter spots, and he is the brightest spot of this team. Now, granted, this team has other bright spots too this season because they're actually winning games. But yeah, Cade Cunningham, very illustrious, and he is proving the reason why he was indeed the first overall pick in 2021. So yeah, Cade Cunningham averaging 25 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists on 46% shooting. Pretty good. So yeah, that's the reason why I have Cade Cunningham getting the All-Star nod this year.
Yeah, his stats have been good for a couple years now. Like he's been playing like an All Star, but finally the Pistons are actually kind of good this year. Now the East is much weaker, so that helps a lot. But still, the Pistons are better, and he's been in the gutter for so long. Let's make him an All Star finally. So yeah, shout out to Cade. Definitely deserves this. I'm glad that you have Trey Young on your list as well. I have him on my list. Why do you think he will be an All Star this year?
I think honestly for him, mostly vote him because of his clutch ability, a very popular fan favorite, and for sure his scoring burst abilities. Like a lot of people like to talk down about Trey for like whatever reason, but clearly he's still really valuable for any team. And I mean, yeah, he's just been without a doubt, obviously one of still the top guards in the league in general, and his presence for the Hawks is clearly a difference. Like, I mean, the Hawks obviously won some games without him, including a win in Boston during the NBA Cup, for example. But like when he is on the floor, clearly they're a lot better. So that being said, Trey Young is without a doubt a Eastern Conference All Star.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, even though his stats are like a little lower than last year, maybe not the most efficient as well. He has made some sacrifices in order to help the team. He's becoming more of a facilitator, which, he's always been a great passer, but this year he's really trying to get his team going. I think big reason why Jalen Johnson had a all-star push this year is because of Trae Young and helping him um, out, like uh, getting easy shots and stuff. So yeah, I think Trae Young deserves it. He is also an exciting player as well with his deep threes, his handles. Uh, he's a great player. So shout out to Trae. Next, we both have Damian Lillard, who won the All Star MVP last year. Um, why do you believe he's gonna be back this year?
I think that he is going to be back for one. Obviously, he is clearly the number two option on the Bucks, and in turn doing a pretty good job at being Giannis's sidekick. And then obviously Dame still has a pretty good clutch ability. Now, yeah, he's still averaging 25 points, and he is shooting 45% from the field, which is pretty good for a high volume shooter like him. So that is why I think Dame will without a doubt be an all-star again this year. And Dame time still doing his thing.
Oh yeah, if last year he got the All Star nod, he definitely deserves it this year. He's definitely has played a lot better, especially uh, fitting in with the Bucks. He's been able to make that chemistry and make it work over there. So yeah, he deserves the spot. It's pretty impressive. Like he's low key has longevity. Last year we were thinking maybe he's gonna start slowing down, but he still got it. He still got it. So shout out to Dame. And the last person we have in common is Evan Mobley for the number one team in the league, the Cavs. Why do you think he will be an All Star this year?
I think that Evan Mobley is just an all-star due to his defensive anchor, honestly. I mean, like, to start, if we're talking in general, um, he's doing pretty good on offense too, like nearly 19 points, shooting pretty good. Obviously, mostly down in the paint presence, but shoots a little bit of threes every now and then. He's averaging 1.4 blocks a game, and clearly without him, the Cavs would not be where they are right now. Now, obviously, so Evan Mobley, I don't know how severe his current injury is, but I know he has missed some time. Hopefully, he can return soon and he'd be good to go, assuming he gets voted in. But yeah, we'll see on the injury status. But nonetheless, I think without a doubt, Evan Mobley is worthy of being a all-star due to his clear importance on this Cavs team that was the best record in the league for much of the season so far.
Oh yeah, like politics does play a bit in this one with the Cavs being the best team in the league. They do deserve more than one All Star selection, but Evan Mobley has been playing like an All Star this year for sure. As you said, almost 19 points per game, and the defense is always insane from him. Always a contender for Defensive Player of the Year. Um, and there could be an argument for other Cavs players, but I think Evan Mobley is the guy for being the number one guy on the team defensively. So shout out to him, especially since people have been saying that he will be an All Star someday, and that might finally happen this year. But those are all that we have in common. Would you like to go over the reasons why you chose Tyrese Maxey to be on the team and Tyler Hero?
Yeah, starting with Tyrese Maxey. Now, obviously, early in the season when the Sixers were very short-handed with injuries to Joel Embiid and Paul George. Um, there were really two main guys that really stepped up for the Sixers, that being Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey. Now, unfortunately, we all know about Jared McCain. He got injured and he is missing the rest of the season. But he was on track to win Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, now he's going to miss too many games. But Tyrese Maxey has been consistent throughout the entire way, and he is averaging 27 points, shooting on 43% from the field, and he is one of the bright spots for the Sixers in a down season. And yeah, I think that probably there is a low chance he gets voted and he gets snubbed due to how stacked and guard heavy it is in the Eastern Conference, unfortunately. But as part of my predictions and having difficulties with the forwards, I gave him the nod here.
All right. What about? I guess like let me talk about Tyrese Maxey. I guess because he is someone I didn't really think about being on my team. Mostly because of how lackluster the Philly uh, season has been. But he's been good. He's been good. He's been injured as well, but when he's on the court, he has been good and trying his best out there for the 76ers. But yeah, as you mentioned, there's just so many guards. There's no way that Tyrese Maxey will be able to make it with the amount of guards that are killing it in the East. So that's why I didn't put him on my team.
Understandable.
Did you talk about Hero already?
No, not yet. So I'll talk about him now. So Tyler Hero is practically having a breakout season himself. Um, you could argue that this is his best season of his career so far. And doing so, obviously, Jimmy Butler missing a lot of games due to like personal issues for the most part. Tyler Hero has really stepped up while Jimmy has been gone. And so he is averaging a career high 24 points per game, a career high 47.5% from the field, a career high 40.4% from 3-point range. And yeah, I think it's safe to say he is having his best season of his career so far. Granted, like those numbers could change as the season goes by and so forth, but so far so good. And this one might be a long shot also due to the fact that, once again, so guard heavy in the Eastern Conference. But due to how good he has been this season, I would not be shocked if he got in. Probably more realistic if it was via a injury replacement. But though unlikely, I wouldn't be too shocked if Tyler Hero got in.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat as you. Although I don't have Tyler Hero on my team, he has been playing like an all star. He's been the number one option offensively for the Heat, especially with like Jimmy Butler refusing to play to his standards for the Heat at the moment. So yeah, Tyler's been playing like an all star, but there's just so many other guards that I would take over Tyler Hero. I would definitely take him over Maxi this year. I'll say that. But over Dame, Trae Young, Cade, LaMelo, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, let me go over the ones that I have that you don't. Starting with Jalen Brown, which I'm a little surprised you don't have him here. He has had like a, you know, what's the word? Not disappointing, but he's been playing a little worse than last year. You know, with that like title run, him being Finals MVP. Uh, Comparing that with this year, it's been a little lackluster, but he's still playing like an all star for the Celtics, and it's the Celtics, so they're gonna have another representation because they are, or not other representation, another representative because they are the second best team in the East. They are still like title favorites. They are the champs, so I think he should be a lock. Paulo Banchero is or actually, I guess I should have you go over your thoughts on my inclusion of Jaylen Brown before I talk about Paulo.
Um, I will start by saying, like, one, yes, you're correct. He has taken a step back, so maybe that was the reason why I didn't include him. But I would not be shocked if he did make it, and I honestly probably will, honestly. And one of the reasons being like too many guards, you need to have some balance as like a forward. So yeah, he'll probably make it for that reason and for Celtics being the second seed in the Eastern Conference and so forth, despite being a little bit more down this year compared to last year. But yeah, he probably will make it. If we're talking like it doesn't matter how many people are positioned, then I probably wouldn't vote him in. But because like the balance of positions out, I think he would get in for sure.
Okay, uh, fair enough. And then yeah, Paulo Banchero probably the more controversial pick because he has been injured for most of the season, but seeing that he's back, I really hope and doubt that he will be injured. And the fact that he has been playing like an all star since he's been back, I think the Magic should get some representation in the All Star game. They've been surprisingly good. So I gave him the nod, especially with, like, again, this position, the forward position, is very weak compared to uh like the West, where we're snubbing Sabonis, we're snubbing Jaren Jackson Jr. Uh, and on the East, like I'm really thinking about, will it be Paulo? Will it be Jalen Johnson? Will it be Jared Allen? These names, although great players, definitely a lot more lackluster than a bonus and a Jared Jackson Jr. So I ended up putting Paulo in here. I think more people would like to see Paulo here. I think maybe the whoever decides the bench selections would give Paulo the nod due to respect of um, how well he's been playing and how well the Magic has been playing and how great Paulo has been. So, maybe it's a long shot, but I think Paulo will be an All Star this year. And it would be the first time I believe this would have happened. I believe Yao Ming was an All Star, even though he played like 10 games before the All Star game, something like that. Um, so it's a similar situation. Now, Yao Ming is a lot more popular. Like, he's like a global superstar. But, uh, I could see this happening for Paulo. So, what do you think? Do you think this is a long shot?
I think it's a long shot. I will say this. I wanted to put him on my list for sure because like if we're talking capabilities wise and not like number of games played, without a doubt Paulo would be a all-star. But I think due to the reason that he has played so little games, oh, grant, I mean, I guess he has played like a somewhat number of games, but because he missed like such a good amount of time, I feel like that's gonna play factor to him not getting the nod. Unfortunately, um, kind of like Luca also missed a lot of time. Now, I don't know how many games each of them missed specifically, but I feel like the not enough number of games is for sure gonna be the deciding factor for Paulo getting snubbed, if you call it a snub. Because like I will say this, um yeah, it probably would be considered a snub, but I guess like a more like a kind of like the Lucas situation, a reasonable one due to like the missing a certain number of games. And
I feel like
that
this
being
is different
said,
from the Lucas situation because Paulo's not injured anymore. Lucas still is.
he's not injured anymore, but he still missed a lot of games. So I feel like it's somewhat similar-ish. Um, but yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, if he played more games, without a doubt he would get it. But I feel like because he missed a lot of time, that's gonna be one of those things that comes to cost him the nod this year. But it's possible maybe as like a replacement. I feel like probably those other guys might have the nod ahead of him due to like the number of games they played. But yeah, I feel like unfortunately Paulo would be a snub in my eyes due to the games missed.
Okay, let's continue the snub talk and talk about our honorable mentions. Who were some guys besides Paulo that you think maybe have a chance of making it uh, due to injury?
Yeah, I think the first guy is Darius Garland because doing pretty good for the Cavs in a one of the reasons why they are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference and were the number one team in the NBA for much of the season. Um, Obviously Darius Garland made the All-Star nod in 2022, a year when the All-Star game was in Cleveland and representing the hometown team that season. Um, this season, in comparison to that season, his stats are kind of similar-ish. I mean, that year he averaged 21.7. This year he averages 21.3. Okay, close there. He's actually shooting a higher percentage this year than he did last year. I mean, during that season. That season he shot 46% from the field. This season he's shooting damn near 50% from the field. And then actually also has a higher three-point percentage. He had 38% that year and 43% this year. So my point being is that he is having similar, arguably better season than the year he actually did make an All-Star previously. Granted, like him the All-Star game being in Cleveland and wanting to have home representation probably could have been like a little bit of a factor there. But point blank is I think that Darius Garland deserves a honorable mention at the very least because of how good he has been. And he has pretty much been like a microwave instant offense for the Cavs. Ultimately, I feel like once again not gonna make it due to how stacked the guards is in the Eastern Conference, but for sure had to include him in honorable mentions. And so my next honorable mention, I put Pascal Siakam as an honorable mention, and I say this because I feel like he's been like the most consistent guy for the Pacers this year. Obviously, we have talked about Tyrese Halliburton had a slow start to the year. He wasn't looking like himself. And he picked up the slack a little bit recently, but due to his slow start, I think that's what really is going to prevent him from the All-Star or even any considerations this year, which is obviously unfortunate because we all know how good he is at his peak. And last year he was really good and always really fun to watch when he is at his peak. But Pascal Siakam, really consistent this year. Granted, he has been his entire career, but like, averaging still 20 points a game, 53% from the field, and probably most impressive is shooting 41% from three. So I put Pascal Siakam as an honorable mention, and who knows, maybe a potential injury replacement candidate. I don't know if he'll get the initial nod, but yeah, I think at least an honorable mention for me. And then I would say I would say one more honorable mention. So I will say I'm not gonna put Paulo in my honorable mentions because we already talked about him earlier. And so if I were to come up with one more honorable mention, I would say Jarrett Allen, just because of like his once again defensive abilities and being a huge factor to the Cavs being how good they are this season. Um, Now doesn't sound crazy, especially when you see another guy like Wemby doing like godly numbers, like still averaging a full block a game, not like a 0.8, but like an actual 1.0. It's pretty good. And then he's also averaging 1 steal a game, and then he is averaging 10 rebounds and 14 points, which is obviously nothing crazy, but like nonetheless getting the job done on the offensive end. So I put Jarrett Allen as a candidate simply due to being illustrious for the number one team in the Eastern Conference. But I think that would be pretty much my honorable mentions in the East. Once again, Darius Garland, Pascal Siakam, and Jarrett Allen.
Okay, I have several um, snubs in common. The only one I don't is Pascal Siakam. I just really think about him. Like the Pacers have had a down season. I'm kind of surprised you didn't say Halliburton because you are kind of a Halliburton fan, but your reasoning does for sure make sense. Um, so for me, my snubs, I guess a quick one would be Franz Wagner, because he was playing like an all star, but then he got injured, so he's not gonna get in. So in a way, he's getting snubbed. But yeah, just like you, the Cavs, the Cavs guys, Darius Garland playing like all star Darius Garland once again, but this time next to Donovan Mitchell. So that's really cool to see. And yeah, Jared Allen, not the flashiest stats, but he's a great defender. And, he will have games where he plays like the best player on the team, but he also like knows his role. He knows when to step back and then when to step forward. So shout out to Jared Allen. Tyler Hero, who made it on your list, he's definitely one of my snubs due to his huge improvements this year. He might be most improved player of the year this season because he jumped in several different categories. So shout out to him. And then Jalen Johnson, who has been great for the Hawks, became the second guy and has helped them a lot, improving their season, and has pretty decent stats if I could find them. Oh yeah, 18.9 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, almost 50% shooting from the field. So those are my snubs. Any thoughts on them before we move on?
Yeah, I would honestly say like not a bad list. Obviously, a few of those players that you mentioned were on my list. And then for the most part, I thought that the list was very reasonable. I will say that when you said that you had several in common and then a few that, or maybe like one or so not on the list, I kind of thought maybe you were gonna say Jared Allen was a guy that wasn't on your list, but like I think that he's for sure worthy, so I guess I'm glad that you have him there for sure.
Oh yeah.
um Aside from that, nothing too crazy with the snubs in my opinion. I feel like most of these guys are like the on the edge. As you mentioned, as far as Tyler Hero goes, he is having a really good season this year, but because of how stacked the Eastern Conference guard position is, it's just hard to see him as the initial nod. Now, granted, I feel like if he were to get in, the best shot is as a replacement. Even then, like with how stacked the guards are or like other positions, there's still a chance that he might even get snubbed from replacement candidate. But nonetheless, I think for the most part, your honorable mentions were pretty reasonable as guys that are either like on the border of getting the nod or not, or guys that like probably deserve recognition but just barely are not quite there yet. So overall, I would say pretty good pool of players in the honorable mentions list for Eastern Conference you have.
Thanks. I will say I think Tyler Hero might be one of the first picks for snubs in my opinion, for injury, not snubs, for injury replacements. Either him or Garland I feel like are like the top options. Garland mostly because of the team he plays for, and then Hero for having a breakout season. What about you? Who do you think would most likely get the nod if there is an injury?
So I think that kind of kind of a little bit of a tricky question there because I feel like they're both very, or a lot of these guys are very worthy, but low key, maybe if I were to say like who would be a number one, yeah, I'm kind of like back and forth. I'm thinking maybe between Garland and Hero. Um, I will say honestly, maybe Hero, but I wouldn't be shocked if Garland was a guy. And again, like it also depends like which position do they think is more needy and whatnot. But yeah, I would say maybe Hero number one, Garland number two, but very like I'd say more like a 1A, 1B in my opinion. What about you though? Any thoughts on who you think would be first in line as a potential replacement maybe?
No, that's similar to you, but they're like 1A, 1B. I don't really know who would take it. Maybe Hero, but I could see an argument for Garland. So those are
For
our
sure.
predictions. We could have honestly ended here because uh, we talked a lot, but we do have some news to talk about as well. But one more question in regards to the All Star lineups. Out of all of these players, starters and reserves, who do you think will be the All Star MVP this season? What's your prediction? I know it's hard to predict. Like
Mm,
nobody thought Dame would win it
yeah,
last year, but who do you think will do it
I don't
this year?
think anyone would have. Yeah, I think that predicting the All-Star MVP is so tricky because like it really depends like one who takes a game most seriously and like two potentially who catches fire. Like, for example, last year Dame was the one that caught fire. And then there was also like a argument like maybe Tyrese was gonna win it because it was in Indiana and the home crowd. And ultimately, I think Dame just narrowly beat out Tyrese. And yeah, they put on a pretty good show. Um, I did not really put too much thought into who would win the All-Star MVP, but if I were to take a wild guess, let's see. Um, hmm. I think maybe I will go with a reserve potentially. Just because like they might be the guys that want to show out more and the starters don't really care as much to show off because like they're already far proven. Granted, all these all-stars are if they are all-star, they are mostly proven players aside from like maybe first-time all-stars getting their first-time nod. But if I were to make a wild prediction for who would win the All Star Game MVP, I'm just gonna go ahead and say Wemby as my wild guess. I don't know how confident I am in that prediction, but to come up with a like blind prediction, I'll go with Wemby, honestly.
That's honestly my guess as well. I was thinking about either Wemby or Ant, but I think Wemby's gonna be the one that cares a lot more. With this being his first All Star game, I'm sure that he's gonna go out there and prove to the world that he is gonna be the best player in the league someday. I think this will uh Wemby is gonna want to turn this into like a statement game. So I think he'll be my pick, but even if he doesn't win it this year, he will for sure win one in his career. Like that's a
Oh yeah,
guarantee. That's a guaranteed. So
for
yeah,
sure.
I guess we have that in
Yeah,
common.
yeah. I think Ant is also a good prediction. I think he could for sure be a possibility. I will say, another guy I almost wanted to say but I don't know how likely it would be. I low key almost wanted to say LaMelo Ball as the
I was thinking
All
that
Star
too.
MVP because I feel like he's the type of guy that like would really try to take this type of game seriously. I mean, like um he is a well, maybe not that seriously, but like he is like a guy that like would tend to like showboat in like certain scenarios. Obviously, 92 points in a high school game, which is impressive. Granted, it was an important game, so that's different. But like I feel like Melo is a guy that like would want to really show out, maybe potentially for like bragging rights. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was the All-Star MVP either. I think probably number one pick would be Wemby, maybe number two for me, Melo, and then Ant number three, I guess.
Yeah, I think Lamelo has a good case. For some similar reasons. Like I don't think he'll play seriously, as in like he's gonna play a lot of defense and stuff. But I think he will, uh, play like it's an All Star game and just have fun, do crazy stuff, shoot from half court, and score a lot of buckets. And I think because of that, and because he isn't a starter, and maybe that puts a chip on his shoulder, I think he has a good possibility of winning All Star MVP this season. But you guys let us know your prediction down below. Any thoughts before we get into news?
I think we have expressed most of the thoughts, honestly. Obviously, when it is like a really stacked position, there tends to be a lot of snubs because like you're really arguing like which guy is more deserving, this guy or this guy. And a lot of times the gap is really not that wide. So it's unfortunate when there are like really close calls that end up causing a snub, but hopefully whoever that does get snubbed this year and does not get in via like a potential replacement could get in future seasons. Aside from that, honestly, I think I've said my part for the All-Star Reserve predictions.
All right, same. So let's go over some news, and we'll try to make this quick. I don't think we have a lot to say about these topics. At least I hope not, because we've been yapping already. But first piece of news: earlier this week, Jimmy Butler got suspended once again by the Miami Heat. He is going to miss, or maybe has already. I don't remember, but he got suspended for 2 games, and this time it was for missing the team flight. Are you surprised?
Unfortunately, I am not surprised because like Jimmy is just letting his ego get to him like so hard, man. Like when he is on the floor, especially in the playoffs, we've seen like peak playoff Jimmy, and he's really fun to watch and all that stuff. But recently and like in the past also, like we all saw the Minnesota situation, and then how the Heat situation. Very reminiscent. Like when he's unhappy, just like stops trying. And he's taking the me over team. Unfortunately, you never want to see that in sports. And so in that case, unfortunately, obviously we saw the body language in his first game back from the original suspension against Denver. He was like not having any of it. He looked like he did not want to be on the court at all or with his team at all. And so like I think that it's one thing if you feel that way, but you hide it from the public to try to act as normal as possible. But Jimmy is not even doing that at all. He's just like showing and embracing organic um his organic thoughts, which honestly, if it was something else, maybe it's not bad to show your true feelings. But for something like this, it's definitely not a good look. So unfortunately, I am not shocked that he got suspended again. Maybe I am shocked that it's so close within. He did barely even played any games and then got suspended. But like, yeah, I feel like as far as like maybe the length of suspension, I guess 2 is all right. I mean, like you don't really expect them to like suspend him too long for this. Now, if it was something like a Draymond Green situation where you're physically like abusing other players for some no damn reason, then like an indefinite suspension would be very reasonable. But for this, where like he's just being very toxic, but like he's not actually physically hurting anyone, I think two is okay. But yeah, hopefully that for the Heat's sake, can just trade him so that everyone's happy. Jimmy's happy. They no longer have to do the distraction, you name it. But yeah, point blank, I am unfortunately not shocked that Jimmy got suspended again.
Yeah, this is a very Jimmy Butler thing to do. He clearly doesn't want to be on the team. It's clear that Pat Riley doesn't want him on the team. So it's like a cold war out there. They're just saying what's gonna happen next and seeing who's gonna essentially like explode first or something. I don't know. So yeah, not surprised. I think Zion got suspended 2 games for something similar, so the length of the suspension makes sense. Um, yeah, not surprised. This is Jimmy Butler we're talking about. When he doesn't when something doesn't go his way, he's just gonna act very childish, as we see here. So not surprised. But speaking of Jimmy Butler, this next piece of news is kind of related to him. The Suns and the Jazz made a very weird trade where they didn't trade players at all. They traded draft picks. The Suns traded away their 2031 unprotected first round pick for 3 first rounders from the Jazz. I guess the Jazz are expecting the Suns to suck in 2031, so that's why they wanted that pick and gave away other 3 first rounders that they had so many first round picks that they clearly weren't gonna use them anyway, so they just gave it to the Suns. And I'm saying that this is related to the Jimmy Butler trade because I'm sure the Suns are gonna use some of these picks or all of these picks for Jimmy Butler in a trade. That's what I'm assuming. That's what a lot of people are assuming. But what do you think?
Um, yeah, I think that's what's gonna happen. They're trying to stockpile some picks to make a trade, potentially most likely for Jimmy Butler, because obviously we know that the Suns practically have no picks for a long time after the trades they did in the past, like KD, Bradley Beal, so forth. Um, but I will say, like, I feel like from the Jazz side of things, the trade really shocked me in a sense. Like, they really gave up 3 first round picks for just 1 first round pick. Granted, I know like it is like unprotected and they expect the Suns to suck. But imagine if the Suns are somehow good that season, then man, I feel like this trade would like backfire so bad. Granted, though, like as you mentioned, the Jazz do have a lot of picks and they don't necessarily need all of them. I definitely was a little bit shocked about like the 3 firsts for 1 first type thing. I mean, maybe the Jazz expect to be good by then, so that's why they were like, yeah, we'll just freely give you guys that much. But I feel like maybe the Jazz could have like either gave up a little bit less or asked for a little bit more in return instead of terms of like maybe you guys, because I know like there are teams that like do trades where they send like cash considerations to another franchise for like salary reasons. Maybe the Jazz could have asked for that, but I think the Suns just don't have salary space, so that might have been the reason. But I guess I was like kind of shocked that this happened more on the Jazz side. But for the Suns, this is potentially huge. Like you can finally have some draft capital to include for a trade for another star caliber player, and I think the most likely candidate is probably Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, so they're gonna make their mid team mid again. I really don't think this is gonna be a needle
I don't think
pusher.
they're gonna get much better. Um, yeah, they're gonna be a for sure play-in team at best.
Yeah, I think so. One more piece of news. Okay. Some Lakers related news. It's just something that Anthony Davis said recently. According to Shams, he is really urging the Lakers to sign a center. He says he plays his best as a power forward, and this shouldn't be a surprise, especially to us Lakers fans. We know that he's been wanting to play as a power forward for the longest time. This isn't the first time he said this. And yeah, here is this quote. Again, according to Shams, this is what Anthony Davis said. One, we want to win in. Sorry. One, we want to win it for the city. Two, we never got a parade. Three, it's a lot of talk about an asterisk. We are 1 to 2 pieces away. I really feel like we are. So he's really wanting to win another championship, and he thinks a good way to do that is to get a center on a team. Do you agree with Anthony Davis? Do you think this is a move that we should do, or the Lakers should do?
I absolutely agree with him in the sense that like right now the unfortunately the Lakers center position behind AD is as depth is just very shaky. Obviously Jackson Hayes was injured for a good amount of time and barely came back. Christian Wood has been injured for an entire season and has no even timeline of returning, which is unfortunate because I feel like Christian Wood could have been a very solid backup center if he was healthy. Like we have seen his abilities in Houston, Dallas, Detroit, you name it, but health is the issue there. Um, and then like obviously then there's like the G League two-way guys like Christian Coloco and so forth. Point blank is the depth is just not good enough. And so I 1000% agree with AD that the Lakers do need to look into addressing a better center. I will say this though, so I know that some of the can no, I guess I can mention now some of the candidates that they're looking into as potential center backup center upgrade options. One of them, obviously, the most mentioned one, Jonas Valanciunas, and then the other one, I think more of a recent candidate I saw. Well, I guess technically there's three of them. One of them is a little bit more far fetched due to like crazy strings of a trade needed to be made. That being Walker Kessler, which I feel like unfortunately is unlikely, be due especially Danny Ainge hating the Lakers and probably wouldn't want to help us. But yeah. The other guy that I recently saw was Chris Boucher from the Raptors. And I think that would be a underrated move if the Lakers are able to pull that off. Now, I don't know what they would have to give up to get Chris Boucher, but if they are able to do it, honestly, I would be pretty down for that one. Now, I will say, as far as like Valanciunas goes, as like a player in general, I don't mind him, but I think it's just like his defensive liability kind of doesn't make it like that good of an appeal for this Lakers team to add. So I would say try to avoid him for that reason. The other guys I would be cool with, but I feel like Walker Kessler unfortunately is unlikely due to Danny Ainge would probably try to fleece the Lakers for that to happen. So yeah, point blank is I agree with AD. They do need to address the center position for sure.
I'm surprised he didn't mention Nikola Vucevic. I've heard some rumors about him too.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I forgot about that one. Um, that would honestly not be bad. I don't know what they would have to give up to get him though.
yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm not really a trades guy, so it's I don't know who is possible. In an ideal world, I would like Walker Kessler. I think we just need a guy
Yeah,
that could rebound very well and block some shots. Um,
agreed.
because this is how we won the 2020 chip. We had JaVale McGee, we had Dwight Howard, who were just out there to grab rebounds, block shots, and Anthony Davis could help out defensively. He could uh, have more energy on the offensive side of the ball. So Yeah, I agree with Anthony Davis. I agree with all your takes as well. Anything you want to say before we move on?
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, a great win by the Lakers last night against the Celtics, destroying them really badly. Granted, like, guys like Charles Barkley gonna try to make excuses. Oh, the Celtics were on the second night of the back-to-back. Don't forget they played last night too. Yeah, okay. Every team has back-to-back, so it counts. No excuses. Nonetheless, I will say, the Lakers' performance against the Celtics showed us a little bit of what this team could possibly do. Um, Now the only problem is consistency because they realistically might not be able to repeat that performance every night in and night out. But I think I definitely really liked what I saw from them that game. And so if they can like make one more move, like a center, for example, I think the Lakers can come a long way. So hopefully, I think I hear most likely they're not gonna do like a crazy move, but like at least do something. Hopefully for the center position, then maybe the Lakers can at least be closer to like real contenders. Yeah, point blank is hopefully we make one more move.
And as always, fuck Boston. But
Yes, sir. Always.
I I did add one thing last minute that I kind of want to do before we end things off and do a quick little mini game. I just thought of this right now, but I think since we spent most of the episode talking about All Stars, I think we should draft at least the starting lineup. So if pretending that we are in charge of the All Star game, who would you draft in your starting lineup? And I'll actually have you go first, if you would like. Who? Oh, again, choosing out of the starters. Who would be your number one pick for the All Star game?
Okay. Number one pick for the All-Star game. I feel like as the number one pick, I gotta go with the best player in the league, being Nikola Jokic. So I'll take him number one.
Fair, fair. I'll go with an MVP caliber player. I was gonna go with who I believe is the second best player, but he's the best guard. So give me Shea. Give me Shea for my pick.
Okay, not bad. All right, so for the second pick, um, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Giannis with second pick.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough with the Giannis pick. Give me LeBron. Give me LeBron. Shea and LeBron together.
Okay, not bad. So now third pick. Let's see. Is my third pick. I'm gonna go with. I'll go with KD, Kevin Durant.
Okay, I was hoping you wouldn't pick him, but fair enough. Fair enough. Give me Steph. Give me Steph.
Okay. Okay, not bad. I will say, like, I was kind of contemplating between KD and Steph, and then ultimately I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go KD. And partially is because you got LeBron, right? Because imagine you got both of them. That would have been crazy. Yeah. But let's see. Next pick. Um, so I just noticed all of the Western Conference starters have now been taken. And then we have four Eastern Conference guys remaining. All right. So in that case, let me think real quick who I will like to take next. I think I'm gonna go with I'll go with Donovan Mitchell.
Good pick. Good pick. Give me Karl-Anthony Towns for my center.
Okay, not bad. And so that leaves us with two remaining players. Um I feel like the right pick would be Jason Tatum, but fuck it, I'm gonna go Jalen Brunson
Okay,
out of spite.
fair. I guess. I guess I'll take Tatum. So, read over your lineup.
All right, so then my lineup would be at guard Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. At forward, I got Kevin Durant and Giannis, and then I guess also a stretch forward, but or center, I got Jokic. So one summary again: Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Jokic.
For my lineup, I've got Shea, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Jason Tatum, and Karl-Anthony Towns. So you guys let us know who has the better all-star starting lineup. And hopefully I can make that into a TikTok really soon, slash short. Now that TikTok is staying, at least for now. At least for now.
Yeah,
We'll see what
for
happens
now.
there. But yeah, that's it. That's it for this episode. I think it was a really good episode. I had a lot of fun recording this.
Yeah, it was good. And it was fun for sure. I think that the last minute mini game was also made it extra fun. We did like a mini draft, like if we were the captains, who would we take? So, yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, like the video. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you really liked it, leave a comment. You can also leave a comment on Spotify. You could go to your favorite audio platform and give us a 5-star rating and review. So, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, are some great options out there. Check out our socials. TikTok is still here, so I'll try to be uploading more TikToks, shorts as well for the YouTube viewers. But yeah, anything you want to say before we head out?
Pretty much just mirroring what Memo said. Per usual, thank you guys for the constant support to our channel. We would not be where we are today without you guys' support. If you guys like our content, just make sure to continue to stay alert and follow us on all platforms, especially YouTube, of course. And obviously, these last two episodes, we've made a few special editions, and they have been fun. And so, stay tuned for our next episodes because we will integrate our strings however we can, and you would not want to miss it. So, yeah, per usual, thank you guys for watching and make sure to always like, comment, subscribe if you like it.
All right, sounds good. So we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.